A fresh confrontation is playing out between Nigeria's labor movement and the country's political leadership over the Dangote refinery and the handling of a labor dispute. While Vice President Kashim Shettima has mounted a forceful defense of Dangote and warned against holding the nation hostage over labor issues, PENGASSAN is pushing back, insisting that workers' rights cannot be brushed aside in the name of national interest. The spark, strike, dismissals, and supply disruptions. The dispute arises from the dismissal of over 800 unionized staff at the Dangote refinery, which PENGASSAN claimed was unjust and retaliatory against union organizing. The union responded with a strike, which disrupted operations and touched off broader supply challenges, especially affecting the movement of petroleum products and cooking gas. These disruptions led to disparate effects across the country, including scarcity and steep hikes in the price of LPG, cooking gas, as loading and distribution chains were impacted during the strike. Shettima's defense of Dangote and rebuke of PENGASSAN. At the 31st Nigeria Economic Summit, NES 31, in Abuja, Vice President Shettima launched a robust defense of Dangote's investments, describing the refinery as a critical national asset. He urged restraint from labor, stressing that Nigeria is greater than PENGASSAN. Shettima framed Dangote not merely as an individual entrepreneur, but as an institution whose success is tied to national prestige and foreign investor confidence. He argued that how the country treats Dangote would influence how outsiders judge Nigeria. He also cautioned against what he described as the perils of letting a minor labor dispute hold the country ransom, calling for patriotic restraint from both the labor and private sector. PENGASSAN's rebuttal, workers' rights and principles. In response, PENGASSAN has pushed back, accusing the presidency of undermining legitimate labor demands and trying to coerce workers into submission. The union argues that the government is siding with a private interest at the expense of constitutional labor rights and industrial justice. The union insists that labor must not be scapegoated, nor should it bear the full cost of mismanagement or power imbalances in the corporate sector. PENGASSAN sees the controversy as symptomatic of a larger tension between capital interests and workers' protections, broader implications, policy, investments, and trust. This conflict carries implications beyond the immediate dispute. Observers note that the treatment of domestic investors like Dangote sends signals to foreign investors about Nigeria's business climate. At the same time, the dispute underscores a delicate balance between protecting national assets and enforcing fair labor practices. If labor feels sidelined, it risks social discontent. If industry is stifled, investment and growth suffer. What next? Strike called off, but tensions remain. Though the strike has been suspended after negotiations, many underlying issues remain unresolved. The union's demands, the mechanisms for reabsorbing dismissed staff, and the balance of power between private capital and worker rights are likely to remain flashpoints in Nigeria's evolving industrial relations landscape.
Whatever our differences, we are bound by the same destination, the duty we owe our people. That is why I'm honored to share the glory of this day with you. The theme of this summit, Building a Prosperous and Inclusive Nigeria by 2030, breathes life into our development agenda. For a nation as abundantly endowed as ours, with immense natural resources and a population blessed with skills and ambition, our greatest asset lies in planning for the future. We are aware of the obstacles before us. We are aware of our economic inequality, insecurity, and infrastructural deficits. But we must also acknowledge that there is no shortcut out of this dilemma. Our task, the task of reform, is to set the course and continue with the changes that will define the Nigeria of tomorrow. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our renewed hope agenda is not just the outcome of consultations with experts and citizens. It was inspired by our determination to move beyond rhetorics and confront the obstacles that have long restrained this nation's vast potential. The bold reforms we have undertaken speak for themselves. You, as experts in wealth creation, are the fairest judges of their impact. Wherever you stand, there is a resounding consensus that our reforms have stabilized our macroeconomic environment, with our economy expanding to $372.8 billion in 2024, up from $309.5 trillion in 2023. Our total revenue collection also rose from 19.9 trillion naira in 2023 to 25.2 trillion naira in 2024. And as of August, it has reached 27.8 trillion naira, surpassing the revenue target of 18.32 trillion naira. These triumphs and projections are guided by the promise we have made to the nation to grow Nigeria's debt service to revenue ratio from 97%, where we met it, to a sustainable level. Aside from the good news that this ratio has now reduced to less than 50%, I am proud to share that this performance in our early days in office inspired Fitch to upgrade Nigeria's sovereign rating to be with a stable outlook, and Moody's to lift our issuer rating to B3 with a stable outlook. Both praise our improved economic foresight and clearer policy direction as their barometers. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the reforms championed by the present administration have begun to yield tangible results across sectors and beyond the GDP growth of 4.23% recorded in September 2025, a number which surpasses projections from multilateral agencies and local think tanks. Non-oil revenues increased by 411% year-on-year in the same month, while the tax-to-GDP ratio now nudges towards 13.5%, up from barely 7% a few years ago. Our debt-to-GDP ratio now stands at 38.8%, far below the limit set by the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 60%, and those of ECOWAS and World Bank at 70%. These numbers tell the story of a nation prepared for the present. They represent the promise we made to Nigerians. We came to office fully aware that the secret to a successful federation lies in empowering each federating unit with the resources and autonomy to pursue development peculiar to its needs. This is why we increased the state's monthly allocations, giving them room to fund critical projects and social interventions. Simultaneously, our commitment to redeeming our industrial and infrastructural deficits has enhanced productivity across sectors. We are now producing an average of 1.8 million barrels of oil per day and are working towards achieving 2 million barrels per day by the end of the 2025 fiscal year. As experts in the economy, you know more than the average citizen that the stability in our foreign exchange market is not accidental. It reflects deliberate choices guided by the same economic logic and wisdom that gatherings such as these embody. Along with subsidy removal, these decisions have rescued our public finances, stabilized the economy, and reassured investors at home and abroad. We owe this progress to the sacrifices of Nigerians, whose patience and understanding have been the bedrock of our endurance. To them, I say, the better days we promise are already within sight. Through these reforms, our external reserves have grown to $43 billion as of September 2025. The figure we had when we assumed the mantle of leadership was so frighteningly low that I can't even dare to quote. Our trade balance also improved to 7.46 trillion naira in the second quarter of 2025, up from 5.17 trillion in the first quarter. I admit that this growth has not yet fully translated into enough jobs for our people, but we are closing that gap. We are giving priority to agriculture and solid minerals, two sectors with great potential to create jobs and strengthen our economy. To move faster, we have entered into partnerships with other countries to bring in modern farming equipment, train our farmers, and expand extension services across the nation. Agriculture is the bedrock of our economy. And for us to have enhanced agricultural output, we have to embrace technology. Improved seed is absolutely essential. Fertilization is a sine qua non. Extension services is an ingredient for successful agricultural intervention, and most importantly, better agricultural practices.